Hi, I'm Ashley Hammond.
And I'm Locke Hammond.
We're married,
We run a business together.
and we homeschool our 4 kids.
That makes us sound a little crazy.
I think people might think we're a little crazy.
Well, through all that crazy, we're here to help you blaze your own trail through a world designed for conformity.
And break the chains holding you back from living an uncommon life.
This is Trailblazers and Chainbreakers.
So today's 2 quotes put together that are about gratitude. And the first one is, gratitude changes everything. So the grateful mind is constantly fixated upon the best. Therefore, it tends to become the best. It takes the form or character from the best, and it will receive the best. And that quote is from Wallace Wattles, I believe is his name.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. He's an author from a long time ago. One of those, if you know Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, I think he came around the same time. I don't know. I know he's before our time, but he's worth reading.
So how did
I like the second quote. What did you say?
how'd that quote make you feel?
Warm and fuzzy. I like the second quote's explanation, and I wanted to include both of them because I like the first quote. Gratitude changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's so simple, but I think it's, the second quote helps us explain why. You get what you think about. You get what you're fixated on. If you're fixated on negative things, it's funny how they tend to happen to you. If you're fixated on positive things, they also tend to happen to you. And I've been on both sides of that.
Mm-hmm.
I had to do a serious kind of review of my life and how I wanted to think and be a number of years ago before I met you. And I was a very negative person for a long time, and I tended to get negative results when I was thinking negatively. And that doesn't mean that nothing good ever happened to me. I'm definitely not complaining. And the flip side is true now. Even if I'm perfect in thinking positively all the time, bad things still happen. And on a side note, you're never going to be perfect, but gratitude, I think, thinking about the things that you already have that you're grateful for, is the best way to be positive. Instead of, I'm trying to think of an example. One of the kids falls down and breaks, well, one of our kids broke her leg. Instead of trying to be like, oh, well, maybe it happened for the best. Maybe there's a reason behind it. Like, some of that doesn't feel legitimate. It feels forced. It feels like, yeah, whatever, yep it off. But if you focus on the things that you can be grateful for, like in that situation, that, we have some wonderful friends who really showed how loving they were and helpful and reached out. We were grateful about that. The fact that she found a way to scoot around on her butt, playing, laughing, giggling, having fun, even in a cast, that's something to be grateful for. So I'm not going to go on and on in this example, but I think that gratitude is the key to, if you want to call it, everybody's obsessed with the idea of hacks, life hacks. If you want to call it a hack, it's the easy way to be positive. It leads to positivity. And the other thing that came to mind is, I know some people who, they're pretty negative, but they're convinced that they're intuitive, and they're convinced that the negative feelings that they get about other people is actually intuition, that, this bad thing's going to happen, or I can see this coming, or, you better watch out for this because this person, this is the vibe I'm getting off of them. And a lot of times they come true. And I always find myself wondering, like, is that intuition, or is that creation? Is that attraction?
Yeah.
Are you intuitive? And I'm sure there are times where you can be intuitive in that situation. It's a case by case basis. But at the same time, when you're negative about almost every single person in almost every single situation, you're attracting the negativity. And eventually, whether it's because the people you're negative about feel that and end up pulling away,
Mhm.
or for other more subtle reasons, you're creating, to a certain extent, you're creating everything around you, and your attitudes and gratitude or lack of gratitude, lack of positivity are going to create what's around you. So
Yeah. Um, my, I mean, this, this quote was really powerful. My takeaway from that was, I know for myself, it's easy to not think about what you're grateful for unless you're like super intentional and you're sitting down and you're writing in a gratitude journal. Like if you're
yeah,
not writing or thinking about it, it's easy for it to slip away. And I mean, I have worked on this a lot and have gotten a lot better, but my brain, from childhood and just a bunch of crap tends to go towards the more um, everything's wrong and there's no way to fix it, like not trying to come up with solutions. So it's interesting because when I was having a coffee date with a friend this week, we were talking about how, and this happens a lot in everybody, but also like being a mom, you just kind of like going and doing the day-to-day task and you're just kind of like grinding through it, not really like, it's like you have like blinders on. It's like when you drive a
yeah,
car, like you just get in your car and you just drive, you don't think about it. I feel like a lot of people are just doing that. They're just, going with emotions and not really stopping to like look around at the beautiful trees outside that are like
yeah.
gorgeous colors, or, holy smokes, I'm still alive. um, and just like simple things like that. And it seems silly and not like a big deal, but if you honestly take a couple minutes every day to appreciate things, it makes a huge difference, at least for me.
Yeah.
The shift from like, even if I do start to have that negative thought that, everything is wrong and nothing's right, it could like, it won't last as long because I'm practicing gratitude. I'm
Yeah.
practicing being thankful for what I have, even if it's the littlest things.
It's hard though. Kathy said in the comments, she said autopilot. What, yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. What you're talking about is autopilot. And it's hard to, so I think that there's some people out there who are like, I never really paid much attention to gratitude. I get the point of what we're talking about. I got
Yeah.
to start. And then there's people um, who get it, who understand the concept, and like you're saying, you and Kathy's comment about autopilot, like it's one thing to have a gratitude journal in the morning, and what a great way to start your day. You start your day thinking about what you're grateful for.
Yeah.
Great start. But then everyday life hits. The kids start running around like ninjas in the background, and you're like, guys, what the F? Quiet down. And I'm so grateful for the noise that's going on right now because I can't even hear what I'm listening to.
Or what
It's
I'm thinking.
hard. Yeah. And so I would say I fall into that category of people. I get how important gratitude is, and I can try to, yeah, like Kathy just said, you have that awareness. So yeah, I have that awareness, but there's the step of, okay, how do I remember to do it when I'm about to lose my shit?
Yeah.
Right? How do
Mhm.
I remember to do it in the little moments every day where maybe I'm not about to lose it, but you were talking about with your blinders on or busy. Like I'm so busy, I'm running around doing a million things. It's easier said than done
Mhm.
to take a breath. And so I think I don't have a magic pill answer for that. I don't know if you do. I don't have a magic answer for that that's going to fix that. I don't think there is one, unless, I know you love setting alarms in your phone
Mhm.
to go off to remind you of things, or setting reminders in your calendar app to pop up silently. I
Yeah.
do that so that when it doesn't interrupt me. Um, when I get to my phone, I have the silent reminder that says whatever it needs to say. And then my rule for myself is I can't swipe it off until I actually address mentally what it's telling me to do. The other thing that's been really helpful for me in the kind of on the fly recognition of gratitude is just having someone like you, whether it's, in our case, we're married. So it's kind of, we can't get away from each other, honey. But it could be a friend, it could be a colleague, it could be somebody you see, kind of like an accountability partner, like a gratitude partner, just somebody like when you say, oh my goodness, like you said something about the leaves earlier, how beautiful the leaves are. So, we were looking at the leaves we drove the four-wheeler around looking at the leaves in our yard yesterday. You saying, oh my goodness, look how beautiful the leaves are. Or like, I'm so thankful or grateful for blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It helps remind me to be grateful, and I can do the reverse for you. And so it goes back to, we were talking when we were recording a podcast episode about the people that you surround yourself with having an effect on you. It goes back to that. The people that are around you can help you with this. And the people that are around you can, obviously the flip side is they can hurt you with something like this. But I don't know, what do you have anything besides what I just said that you use to stay grateful?
Well, what I was thinking about, like when you were like, well, how do you stop yourself from losing your shit? Like, how do you remember that when you're about to lose your shit, when you are just like going with the daily flow? For myself, I was thinking about like some kind of like pattern interrupt. And like, I know that that's like another like thing you have to like throw in there, but there has to be some kind of like, if you get to a certain level in healing or in working on yourself, there's a point that you get to that you didn't get to in the beginning of your healing work, where you start to notice, before it was after you snapped, you notice that you shouldn't have snapped. Then it's like in the middle. Well, I think there's something that happens in our brain that you can start to notice when it's about to happen, and like somehow interrupt that pattern from allowing you to snap. And that might look differently for everybody. I know for myself, what I've started doing, I have 2 alarms in my phone and they go off.
You have 37 alarms in your phone. Don't lie.
But the alarms that are important go off at times of the day where I know that I start to lose it. At the times of the day when I start to lose my cool, kind of like forget to stop and think. And one of them,
you can recognize those times.
Yeah, and one of them is, how are you showing up? So what I started doing this week is my alarm went off. I was with Paisley. That's our oldest daughter. And I said, it said, how are you showing up? So I looked at Paisley and I said, how is mommy showing up right now? And she was like, what?
She's the one who will tell you horribly.
Yeah. And I was like, how am I showing up? And she looked at me and she's like, well, what do you mean by that? And I'm like, do I seem grumpy? Do I seem like, how do I seem? And she goes, you seem very happy right now and you're laughing and you're having fun. And I was like, okay, cool. So I'm showing up the way that I want to show up. Another alarm that goes off a couple of hours after that. And it's funny because you printed me this picture like years ago, but it's let that shit go, because I will get in my own head. And I know a lot of people can relate to me, where I'm just like spinning all this junk in my head, this trash in my head. And so I need that reminder, Ashley, let that shit go.
You also just like saying shit.
I do. I do. So.
Yeah. So I think that, so I have one quick comment to that. If I can speak to you talking to the kids about that, the accountability kind of there, because especially that kid, but all of them.
Yeah.
That one out of our 4 is the most likely to call you out on it.
Oh yeah.
Without even being asked, which is awesome. But at the same time, if you know, I don't know if you know the answer to this. This isn't me trying to call you out.
Yeah.
But if you know that the answer to that question is going to be, not really showing up great right now, Mom. Like you just snapped or whatever.
Yeah.
Would you still ask? Right.
Yeah.
That's one point. And so it goes into one of my thoughts about self-growth, self-development, and gratitude should become a habit. Mm-hmm. Because if it's not a habit, then when you're in a either a bad place or just having a rough day, whatever, you don't feel like it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it should be okay to not feel like doing things.
Oh yeah.
But if we're talking about like, so I'm not saying you do this. You said you just started doing it, but do you only ask your accountability partner or your kids, how am I showing up, when you know the answer is going to be good? Or do you ask all the time? And you certainly don't just ask on the good days. It's a hypothetical question, but it's got to become a habit, because in the way this isn't the most flattering language, but the way I think about it is I have to idiot proof it for myself, or the first sign of an opening, I'm going to squirrel out of it in general, not just gratitude, in the things I don't want to do. Right.
Yeah.
And then I want to go back real quick, and then and you can add whatever you want, and we can move on to the question. But you were talking about pattern interrupt, which is a fantastic thing. You start to feel yourself spiral. Can you do something to almost shock yourself out of that pattern to get out of it? That's a NLP, a neuro-linguistic programming thing, right? So there's also preemptive. So I wrote myself a note when you were talking, preemptive versus interrupt or pattern interrupt. Yeah. So you've got all these situations, the gratitude journal in the morning is preemptive. You've got just looking around you, maybe an alarm going off to tell you to be grateful, or how are you showing, right? That's preemptive. And then you've got pattern interrupt when you're in the crap, when you feel yourself spiraling. And we start off with a really simple quote, gratitude changes everything. And you can go really super deep and complex, and it becomes a pretty big undertaking. So, I would, unless you have something else to add, which you certainly can, I would end the kind of gratitude discussion with just start with something small. Yeah. Whatever it is. It doesn't matter if you feel like you're lacking gratitude, if you are totally new to that kind of idea, which I don't know if you are, if a lot of people are or not, just add one thing small and do it for a while, and then add something small later. If you get it, Kathy pointed out the autopilot, you said blinders, we understand the importance of gratitude. We're talking about this, like you and I should be adding something small each day, to continue the to continue the habit. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add.
Well, the small thing that I do almost every morning, even if I'm not in the mood, is, and this is helpful for me, and I know some people this might be overwhelming, and if you overthink it is kind of overwhelming. But for myself, I have a notebook, and it's just for this, and it's wins. It says at the top, wins, and it could be as simple as I went out by myself yesterday, or I drove around.
Yeah, the silly little things that people don't give themselves credit for. Yeah,
I drove around and looked at foliage, and I actually appreciated looking at the leaves. I didn't just drive in my car. I looked around and appreciated what was around me. It doesn't have to be these, for me, wins don't have to be this big thing that you did. It could be the smallest little thing, but it's actually, for me, it's taking me out of a mindset where I can think about all the things that are wrong, and it's starting my day with something that I did right. These are my 3 wins that I accomplished, and yay for me. And I need, that's something that I need and is very helpful for me. And that helps me get into more of a gratitude state in my mind.
Breaking down a seemingly gigantic goal of just becoming grateful all day into small chunks. Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
That's very important. All right, you ready for the question? Move on to the question?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm very grateful that you're willing to move on to the question.
You're such a goofball.
I just had a very quiet ninja sneak past me. I almost didn't notice. All right, here's the question.
Okay.
What are you willing to fight for, and why? And the question comes from, I don't know if people, I'm going to pull it out of my drawer. We randomly found these cards. I don't know if you can see them. That's the wrong side.
Cool. They're so cool.
on our beach vacation at a
Yes.
house we rented, which was awesome, in Rye. Um, and they're called Actually Curious. And it's just like a deck of playing cards, but they're not playing cards. They're just questions to start conversations with. And if you have someone close to you, I mean, there's some pretty good questions in there. This is one of the questions in there. Some of them are a little bit, we could go down a rabbit hole with some of them, controversial perhaps, but this is one of them. So what are you willing to fight for and why?
So this can get really deep. I'm not going to try to get really deep, but for my answer, for myself, I wasn't always willing to fight for myself and what I wanted and what I believed in. And I stayed quiet and I played small. And so I could say a lot of things that I'm willing to fight for, but I'm going to say the first thing that came to my mind right now this morning was myself.
Yeah.
I know once you become a parent, even a lot of parents put their kids before themselves. And while I adore and love my children so very much, I know that if I wasn't fighting for me, then I would not be the parent that they needed me to be.
For sure. I mean, yeah, the kids are great. They're all right, I guess.
Yeah.
We'll keep them, but you got to do you first.
Yeah. And
I think that's really important. Sorry if I keep cutting you off.
It's okay. I didn't always.
I'll stop talking over you.
Yeah, stop. I'm gonna beat you up. I didn't always take care of myself, and I didn't have boundaries, and I didn't fight for myself, and I allowed people to walk all over me. I allowed people to think for me. I just would be like, oh yeah, you think that? Cool, I think that too. Like, I just took everybody's shit on and made it my own and called it my own and thought that I was some kind of individual, but I wasn't. I was a little bit of everybody around me. So fighting for me and for what I want and not what everybody else wants me to want is huge. And I know your answer is probably going to be really different than mine. That's why I kind of thought that was.
Well, it always is. And now everybody understands why we do this in two different rooms, because if we were sitting next to each other, I would have just gotten smacked in the head. I love your answer. I love your answer. I know that you, in fighting for yourself, have had to, like this idea of not taking other people's opinions as your own.
Yeah.
You've had some literal fights, especially you and I.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we had these stories that we were telling ourselves, and we had roles in our stories, and we fit perfectly into the other person's stories and the roles that the other person wanted us to have.
Yeah.
And when you were ready to change that, I was ready to change that too. And we got to the same place without knowing that we were at the same place. And so we had some fights when we were trying to change that story, just because we weren't communicating.
We weren't communicating.
Not because we didn't want to both change, but we weren't communicating. And I know that recently, you know, you've had some, not fights, but inner fights, I guess, in which you really knew you had to stand up for yourself, and with friends, and family members even. And you knew it was the right thing to do, and you knew it was going to ruffle some feathers, because a lot of times standing up for yourself makes other people, well, almost always standing up for yourself makes other people feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And you knew it would ruffle some feathers, and it did, but you had to do it, or you wouldn't be able to live with yourself, because you knew it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And so fighting for yourself is, you've got some experience to talk about. So I think that was a really good answer. You touched on one of my answers, which was family. I take my role as a father very seriously. I'm not trying to stereotype. I'm not trying to be sexist or anything like that. I have a lot of very feminine qualities about me. You have a lot of masculine qualities about you. I don't believe in the stereotypical gender roles, but I do believe that my personality, the way I think is my job is to protect my family.
Yeah.
You and I provide for our family together, but my job is to protect us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am, this is pretty self-explanatory. I'm more than willing to fight for my family. And that doesn't just include people in this house.
Yeah.
My parents and brothers have been a big piece of my thinking in terms of how I act and prepare for the world that is going on. Because I don't look at you like you can't protect yourself. I don't look at them like they can't protect themselves. There are some things that I know I can do better than a normal human being, and one of those is to protect my family and to think ahead.
Yeah.
So that's part of my answer. The other thing, which this is a rabbit hole, we don't need to go down the rabbit hole with this one, but I'm willing to fight for my family's freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a hot button topic right now. It's what I can do, what I can think, what my body is supposed to be doing, the books I can read, the thing, like, the non-violent things that are getting censored because they disagree with it's not even a popular opinion, and a lot of times it's not the popular opinion, it's just the mainstream narrative. People are getting censored. The people I want to listen to, as long as they're not preaching hate and violence, I should be able to listen to them. I should be able to do what I want with my body. And I think that's pretty self-explanatory. We don't need to go down that way.
Yeah, for sure.
And I agree with you about myself. I need to get better at fighting for myself. I think I look to you as a role model for that because I see you doing it. And I am certainly one of those people who, my first answer was my family to this question. And you said, a lot of people would have that. Well, that was me. So I think it's a really good thing to think about too. What are you willing to fight for? And what's, the flip side of that, I like to think about what other questions can follow up a good question.
Yeah.
And to me, what are you willing to fight for and why is a fantastic question. The one that's important to me, just looking at me and how I am, is where am I maybe fighting that I shouldn't be?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, where is it not worth it to fight anymore?
Mm.
And there's a lot of things in our relationship where, maybe we weren't fighting in quotes, Dr. Evil quotes. But we were disagreeing or something like, something stupid.
Very
and
stupid.
That's one place that I'm no longer willing to fight, right?
Yeah.
I guess that's one way we could put it. But I think that's a good question to ask yourself too. And so for people that are watching and what?
Say it again, because it was good.
So where are you fighting that you no longer should be? So what are you willing to fight for and why? Is a great question. What are you fighting for or quick to fly off the handle or get mad about that maybe you shouldn't be? Mm-hmm. I think in your relationships, that's a huge question. I think for you and I, with current events, you and I get really fired up about certain things, especially kids. Mm-hmm. I guess that's kind of self-explanatory when people are telling us what we should do with our kids or what our kids are allowed to do, or, they're so loud right now.
Bang, 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 bang.
They were quiet ninjas for a while and it didn't last too long. But so these things that, reading a news headline can get me really fired up. Mm-hmm. And I don't pay attention to, I don't watch news. I don't pay attention to like the mainstream news, but I like to stay up to date on certain events. And so it's one thing that can fire both of us up.
Yeah.
So you got to pay attention. Where are you fighting that you shouldn't be?
Yeah.
Where are you willing? What are you willing to fight for? What are you no longer willing to fight about?
Yeah.
There are things that are going on today we were just talking about current events. There are things that are going on today that absolutely should be fought for.
Yeah.
Freedom is
Yeah.
one of them. But there are also things going on today that, why are we fighting about this?
Yeah.
It's stupid, right?
Yeah.
So, we're allowed to disagree on certain events. And when you don't pick your battles and everything's a fight, whether it's in the world or whether it's in a relationship, because we've done that,
Yeah.
where we don't pick our battles and, I've adopted this yes, dear joke with you where it's like, yes, dear, you win. I'll do it sarcastically, but I'll let you win.
Yeah.
If you can't do that in your life or your relationships, you're going to have a lot of fighting, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I find, especially when it's like reoccurring stuff, like it's the same thing over and over again. It's like how long or how many times, and I know for us, this was our past history. How many times are you going to fight about the same thing? Like, and I hate to say this, but like, are you going to get over it because you already worked through that? Or are you just going to keep bringing it up? Because bringing something up again, it's like,
well, that means you're not over it. Yeah,
like beating your head on the wall.
How many times have we, whether it's us or other people that we see, it's like, oh yeah, I forgive that person for that, but you get a little annoyed and you bring it back up and poke at them. You're clearly not over it.
Yeah. And for what you said about like watching the news and stuff, I think for myself, if something makes you angry and you are aware enough to notice how you feel after you do whatever it is. So we'll say watch the news. If watching the news makes your body tense and angry, like it does for me, I am instantly, and I don't watch it, but if I go somewhere where the news is on, I'm instantly anxious and angry right afterwards. If that makes you feel that way, then maybe you should not be doing that. And that's a question that you have to ask yourself, because I also believe, and this is a different rabbit hole, I believe some people want to be angry. I think some people want to be pissed off. I think some people want to keep rehatching the same stuff over and over again.
We were both that way for a while. So you have every right to say that some people are like that. That's not necessarily pointing the finger where you're not. I mean, you openly admit that. Yeah. And I do too. So yeah, I agree. And I think it's not just the news. It can be people. It can be certain people. Places.
It could be things. It could be anything. People, places, and things. I'm a little delirious.
Have you been homeschooling and doing nouns lately or something?
Actually, yes, I have. But no, my brain is right now. Yeah. But yeah, so that, I mean, I could go down so many different avenues with that, but that was a really good question.
Yeah. And as much as I love your sound effects and would love to hear you make funny noises all day.
I do.
This is true. This is true. You next time you open the window to yell at the squirrel that's on the bird feeder, I'm going to be sneaking up the stairs to take a video of it so that everybody can hear the things you yell at squirrels. It's not English. They're not words.
They won't stop eating the damn bird seed. It's not for them. They have acorns.
Yeah. Well, you go tell them that. Go have a logical argument with a squirrel.
I will.
And get back to me.
Yes, and you can tape that. I would love everybody to see how I yell at the squirrels.
Well, yeah, that's fair.
6 o'clock.
I mean,
morning.
Yeah, you start your morning yelling at squirrels out the window, and everybody else in the house laughs. If I tape that, then I will have to I'll have to reenact that day that we had the turkeys we have the turkeys in the yard every day, but the day that I tried to chase the wild turkeys down and catch them, and they easily left me in the dust. I'll let you record that so that we can embarrass each other.
He thought because he's tall and he's fast because he has long legs that he could catch up with turkeys.
So I'm fast because I'm fast, lady. It has nothing to do with the long legs.
Ashley, you should record this, and I didn't have my phone on me, but it was the funniest thing ever. Like, you were close. Those turkeys, like, they're
like little dinosaur track stars. They were fast.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think we're slightly off topic, so let's wrap it up there.
Hey.
Anything else you want to add about turkeys and squirrels and our children dressed like ninjas, anything else that has nothing to do with the point.
No.
All right. Well, we'll see you. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week, Fridays, 8:30 in the morning. You can come listen to us apparently talk about turkeys and gibberish, I guess.
And squirrels.
Yeah. All right. Take care, guys. Have a good weekend.
It's Happy Friday.
Hi, friends. If you're enjoying the show, would you please leave a quick rating or review on Apple Podcasts for us? Doing this helps more people find the podcast, which means even more people can benefit from the conversations. We really appreciate you and your time, and thanks, as always, for listening.